This is Wretched Radio with Todd Friel.
Like a blind knife that finds a squirrel in the shed twice a day, it's Bill Maher. This is Wretched Radio. Occasionally, Bill Maher, in fact, increasingly these days, which quite honestly kind of hurts my heart a little bit. Increasingly, Bill Maher, Mr. Politically Incorrect, host of HBO's Real-Time program, is talking like, oh, I don't know, Tucker Carlson. He actually said so the other day. He was interviewing Megyn Kelly. She was expressing her concern about what's going on in government schools, both public and private schools in New York. And Bill Maher was actually jumping in on our side saying, you know what, this should not be going on. We shouldn't be indoctrinating children like this. Yikes. My people, the left, have gone so far, he said, they're making me talk like Tucker Carlson. What a world we're living in when Bill Maher sounds like Tucker Carlson. And so it was this last week in doing a monologue. Bill Maher identified rightly a problem that is going on in our society. And I applaud him for that. But please listen for the remedy. That's where I think he's falling a bit short. The subject was cancel culture. Bill Maher, very concerned about it. And he even recognizes that it's the people on his side of the aisle that are promoting cancel culture.
Cancel culture is real, it's insane, and it's growing exponentially, and it's coming to a neighborhood near you.
That is shocking, isn't it? He's right. Cancel culture is predominantly, although not exclusively, coming from the left. We need to be careful, by the way, that we don't play the same game, because here's where the game gets a little tricky. You don't think you're canceling somebody when you're right. And of course you think you're right, and therefore it's justified. Got to watch out for that. There's a time when it can be appropriate depending on the issue and time when it's not. Bill Maher is talking about the preposterous canceling that is going on over just about everything. Don't panic. We did the beeping so that you don't have to.
If you think it's just for celebrities, no. In an era where everyone is online, everyone is a public figure. It's like we're all trapped in the hills have eyes and Wi-Fi. Take Mr. Emmanuel Cafferty. He was a San Diego gas and electric worker, but he got fired because someone reported him making a white supremacist hand gesture outside the window of his truck. But he's not a white supremacist, he's Latino. And he wasn't making a hand gesture, he's probably just flicking a booger.
Sorry.
Is this really who we want to become? A society of phony, clenched avatars, walking on eggshells, always looking over your shoulder about getting ratted out for something that actually has nothing to do with your character or morals? Think about everything you've ever texted, emailed, searched for, tweeted, blogged, or said in passing, or now even just witnessed. Someone had a Confederate flag in their dorm room in 1990 and you didn't do anything?
That's pretty amazing. Bill Maher, who does not ascribe to any sort of belief in God, recognizing a big problem. Cancel culture. Now, here's where it gets really rather complicated. Did we used to cancel? Depending, of course, on how you define canceling. Were there things historically in our culture that we said, no, can't say that, can't do that? And the answer is absolutely there are. There are things, there are values, there are morals. There are different things that you can't say, you can't write about, you can't print. Those rules actually were in place, even with free speech, freedom of religion. Why? And what's the difference? There is a big difference because from what was happening then and what is happening today. Sort of. Because the same result is taking place. That our culture, in some way, shape, or form, are saying that there are certain values and certain behaviors that cannot be tolerated. That's what cancel culture is. The difference is who is writing the rules. And this is where we need to be really, really careful. If you and I engage into the public forum trying to say cancel culture is all bad, they're going to respond and say, well, don't you want to do the same thing? Don't you want certain behaviors to be against public norm, maybe even against the law? Do you still want those swear rules for primetime TV? You're canceling too. What's the difference? And I think it's a two-word answer. It's a question, and it is one that has been asked from the beginning, in the garden. You're hearing Bill Maher trip onto a truth. Now, his ability to determine how we fix this cancel culture problem, I don't think that he's going to begin scratching the surface in this monologue. I'm glad he's asking the questions. I'm glad he's opposed to it. But until we get to asking a bigger two-word question, I don't know how. The only way that this is going to sift out is that the person in power or the people in power are going to define our culture's rules and then cancel based on what they believe is right and wrong. And that's why the question that needs to be asked, Bill, to you, to Megyn Kelly, to Jerry Nadler, to the Christian, says who? Says who? There are certain laws that are ultimately going to be very moral. They are going to be in the bullseye of morality. I'm not talking about speeding, electricity codes. I'm talking about morality issues, definition of marriage, who can use a public restroom. These are issues that are not a scientific issue per se. These are moral issues. And right now, because it appears, whether it's true or not, it appears that godless people on the left are in power. They're saying, here's the new morality. You can't think this. You can't say this. You can't discriminate like this if you're a religious person. Why? Because they're writing the rules. Who used to write the rules in our culture? Well, hopefully, when it came to moral issues, we would try to become informed by a higher power. We would look to our Bibles. I'm not talking about exclusively, of course, but you had religious people, Christian people, who would use their Christian worldview to make some common sense rules to protect our society, sometimes even from itself. And so they want to get rid of all of that, but what are they doing? They're replacing it with their morality. And that's what we're experiencing today. You used to cancel us, now we're canceling you. Why? Because we can. Furthermore, we believe that your Christian morality is so abhorrent, it has no place in the public forum. It cannot be discussed. You cannot question. You cannot challenge. We will not have debates. You're that out of touch with the times. And our response should be, says who? And that is why we're going to have to watch this rodeo play itself out. Because I don't think Bill Maher is actually going to answer these questions. I don't think he's going to be able to get to where it needs to go. We're going to have a vying in our culture for morality, the new morality. And I fear that we are not going to be as Christian as we need to be in our response to a culture that wants to cancel us. Because when they're in power, they're going to do it. And one court case after another. The equality law, a Supreme Court ruling, you name it. Increasingly, we will be marginalized. And Bill Maher doesn't like it because he doesn't think it's fair. Maybe it's self-interest because he realizes that he could be canceled next because they'll cancel anybody who does not align totally with their new worldview, which is why we can go into the arena of debate and we're going to be banging our heads. Furthermore, we're probably not going to come out on the long end of the stick very often because they're in power. I think the question that we need to be asking these people is, where do you get this from? Where this new morality of yours? Gender and sexuality issues, values, family definitions, marriage. And their response is going to be, well, we say. And that's where we're at. And so that leads the Christian, if he's going to continue thinking, to pursue that. So if I ask a godless world, where are you coming up with your rules? Says who? And the answer is we says. How am I going to persuade them that God's way of thinking is better than their way of thinking? And the answer is, I'm not. And so I can cite a scientific poll, and pornography is a health issue. They'll find another poll that says it's not. It actually helps marriages, or some ridiculous study. And we'll lose. What does it take to get somebody who thinks so poorly to start thinking rightly? And it's not just by introducing them to right teaching. It is introducing them to God himself, that God would regenerate the person, save that person, and then fix their thinking. And so if you don't like what's going on in our cancel culture, and you think that this is bad for Christianity, might I suggest we respond to it the way that we've been supposed to respond all along? Preach the gospel. This is Wretched Radio. Good evening, my fellow totally depraved Americans.